طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. For tonight's Q&A session or Q&A marathon, I'll introduce to you a very important book in Hadith culture, and that is the book which is called Al-Fath al-Rabbani. بترتيب أو لترتيب مسند الإمام أحمد ابن حنبل الشيباني مع مختصر شرحه بلوغ الأماني من أسرار الفتح الرباني. تأليف Ahmed Abdurrahman al-Banna. We have two books in one. The first one is called Al-Fath al-Rabbani, and then the second was called Bulugh al-Amani. As far as Al-Fath al-Rabbani, then it is the Tartib al-Musnad, meaning he took those approximately 37,000 or 40,000 hadiths of Imam Ahmed that have no specific topical arrangement or order, and he put them in the topical arrangement, ala al-abwab wal-kutub, or al-kutub wal-abwab. In other words, he took Musnad Imam Ahmed and turned it into Sunan Abi Dawud. Hybrid form. Musnad Imam Ahmed, as we all know, is arranged according to the names of the Sahaba, regardless of the topic and the subject. So that is a benefit for a muhaddith, without a question. A tremendous benefit for muhaddith. As far as for the faqih, and the one who wants a ruling and wants to find it easily and simply and economizing his time, then that's rather difficult, and that's more of a hindrance and an obstacle. So he came behind many years after Imam Ahmed, وَرَتَّبَهُ, and he put it in order, على الكتب, كتاب إيمان, كتاب طهارة, كتاب كذا, كتاب كذا, كتاب الجنائز, كتاب البيوء, كتاب النكاح. He made tartib of it. And then after he made tartib of the Musnad Imam Ahmed, that's a tremendous feat, obviously, a tremendous feat. Then he made the sharh, a summarized commentary and explanation of his tartib. So many brothers, they mistakenly say Al-Fath al-Rabbani is the sharh of Musnad Imam Ahmed as a khata. Al-Fath al-Rabbani ismun lit-tartib. The name of the sharh is Bulugh al-Amani min Asrar, etc. طيب? And both of these here is written by Ahmed ibn Abdurrahman al-Banna, who was the father of the famous and the infamous Hassan al-Banna. The famous and, according to some, infamous reformist or revivalist or political leader, supposed or claimed founder of the Al-Ikhwan al-Muslimun, the Muslim Brotherhood group in Egypt. And obviously, right or wrong, left or right, up or down, that was a tremendous, groundbreaking point in history, in the history of the Muslims of the modern age. What was going on in Egypt, the revolution, seeking independence, Arab nationalism, so on and so on and so on and so forth, all the way up to this day. The political issues, the political problems, the Dawa issues, the Dawa problems, the fitna in the West, the problems in the West, is all fruits from those groundbreaking events. Al-Muhim, we're not here to talk about that or discuss that, but that's who his father was. Hassan al-Banna's father put together this tremendous book. This book has several volumes, and it's definitely a book that every student of Hadith should have in his library. Every talib al-ilm should have this book in his library, inshallah ta'ala. Here's a look into the inside of the book. It doesn't have to be this print, it can be another print, but obviously this is probably the best print. So he says here, مثلا, طيب. So obviously we're in Kitab al-Salah, مثلا. Okay. So let's go back to, it says here, طيب. It says أبواب, all right, موقف الإمام والمأموم وأحكام الصفوف, rulings of the rows and ranks. So up top is the Musnad, and on the bottom is the original Isnad of Imam Ahmed and the sharh of the meanings. طيب, everybody clear on this? So he says مذاهب العلماء في حكم تسوية الصفوف. What do the ulama and the scholars of Islam say about straightening the rows? So Hadith 1474 says, عن عائشة رضي الله تعالى عنها قالت قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الله عز وجل وملائكته عليهم السلام يصلون على الذين يصلون الصفوف ومن سد فرجة رفعه الله بها درجة. Aisha narrates that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, indeed Allah and His angels yusalluna, they make salah upon those who yasiluna sufuf, join the rows, fix the rows, connect the rows, perfect the rows. طيب, the hadith says, وَمَنْ سَدَّ فُرْجَةً, and whoever fixes or closes a gap, رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ بِهَا دَرَجَةً, Allah will extol him and elevate him in rank. طيب, so here he says, سَنَدُهُ, it's isnad in the original work of Imam Ahmad. حدثنا Abdullah, obviously that's the son, and that's a discussion of Zawa'idul Musnad, the hadiths that Abdullah got from his father, the hadiths that he got from other than his father that are in the Musnad, Zawa'idul Musnad. قال حدثنا أبي, my father, Abdullah ibn Ahmad. قال حدثنا أبو اليمان قال حدثنا إسماعيل ابن عياش عن هشام بن عروة عن أبيه عن عائشة الحديث يعني إلى آخره. So that's the sanad that you'll find where? In Imam Ahmad's Musnad. And obviously his version is no sanad. Then he says here, تخريجه, who collected this hadith along with Imam Ahmad? طب حق, meaning Tabarani and Bayhaqi. Codes, rumuz. طبراني and Bayhaqi بدون قولها ومن سد فرجة إلى آخره وسنده جيد. Then he makes the hukum. It's not, it's fair, it's good. وأخرج نحوه الطبراني كاملا عن أبي هريرة ورواه أبو داود عن عائشة بلفظ إن الله وملائكته يصلون على ميامن الصفوف. And he gives another version of the hadith in the Sunan of Imam Abu Dawud. Point after that, al-ahkam, the rulings, the fiqh that is to be taken from this hadith. في أحاديث الباب دليل على مشروعية إقامة الصفوف وتصفيتها أو تسويتها وإتمامها وسد خللها وإتمام الصف الأولي الذي يليه ثم الذي يليه وهكذا الحث على ذلك وتأكيده وفيها. And then he goes on to mention the fiqh and the ahkam is a tremendous book, and there lies no doubt any student that kept reading this book with the proper guidance and the proper training would definitely be on his road to becoming a scholar of Islam and a scholar of hadith and fiqh, inshallah ta'ala, comparative fiqh, sharh al-hadith, etc. Allah surely knows best. Al-Fath Rabbani, inshallah.
Initials KA, London, UK. What's the best way to retain Arabic vocabulary?
London, UK, the best way to retain Arabic vocabulary is keep using them words, inshallah, on a daily basis. And look at all of the words that are Arabic, alaikum salam, that you know about. It's 1,000 words you use on a daily basis. Bait, khimar, masjid, kitab, sheikh, dars, niqab, thob, 1,000 different words that you use. Sutra, you just got to keep using it. Put it into rotation, inshallah. Wallahu a'lam.
Initials N in Toronto, Canada. Assalamu alaikum. Can you please advise how to go about strengthening one's connection with Allah?
Strengthening one's connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Strengthening one's iman. Learning about Allah's beautiful names and attributes. Learning about Allah's deen, having more ilm. Reading the Quran and reflecting on it. Looking at the universe. Reflecting on Allah's signs. From your fingertips. From your thumb. Your pinky. From your fingerprint. Your eyelashes. To the mountains, the stars. Anything that you come across. So learning Allah's beautiful names and attributes. Getting to know who Allah is. How Allah told you about Himself. In the manner that He wanted you to learn and know about Him. Alright? Seeking knowledge of the deen. Reflecting on the Quran and developing a relationship with it. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. These are all things which will help you and assist you, inshallah. And then, bi-idhnillah, is to find your particular niche or niche. That which you feel the most comfortable with and that which you feel the most inclined towards. That which you feel the most inclined towards. And stick to that. You feel good when you have sadaqah, you give sadaqah. You have money, you make extra money. You feel good that you worked all week long and every day you sacrificed a cup of coffee. You didn't buy yourself a coffee or you didn't buy yourself something to eat. You sacrificed, and at the end of the week you have extra 50 pounds or 30 pounds. Even though that's your normal routine on a daily basis, I felt good. You give that in sadaqah. So stick to that. Stick to that which you feel inclined towards. And keep doing it and enhance it, huh? Inshallah.
Initials MA, Bronx, New York. Can being in a different sect take you out of the fold of Islam?
Can being in a different sect take you out of the fold of Islam? For sure. Some sects have creeds or belief systems or practices that are clearly and major contradiction with the teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah. Yani, not minor contradiction, major contradiction. Creed of shirk, action of shirk, will take a person out the fold of Islam. It can happen. Wallahu alam.
Initials FA, Houston, Texas. Are Quran rulings general until proven specific?
Are Quran rulings general until proven specific? That's the asl, the default of rulings, period. If it comes in a general sense. Yes. Wallahu alam.
Initial Adam H from Brooklyn, New York. If a bathroom floor is dirty and there are slippers inside the bathroom, do you use your right foot first to get the slipper, or do you use your left foot first when entering?
Step into the bathroom with your left, inshallah.
Initials MT, Birmingham, UK. What do we say about Imam Nawawi and his position on Tawassul?
We say about Nawawi and his position to Wasl, anything else. Any scholar. If a scholar says something, which is an issue of ijtihad, and the other scholars come together unanimously for or against him, that's one thing. If it's continually an issue of ijtihad, it's one thing. Can you differentiate yourself? Can you decipher it yourself? Can you discern yourself? Or are you blindly following someone? So all scholars are humans. They do things well, and sometimes they do things which aren't so well. They're humans. The truth, bid'nillahi ta'ala, you follow it according to what you believe and what you see. And Allah knows best.
Initials AJ, Columbus, Ohio. How to repent after drinking alcohol?
Make tawbah. Have regret. Feel remorseful that you drunk the alcohol. Make, inshallah ta'ala, the determination never to do it again. Ask Allah to forgive you. If you want to make the wudu, make the 2 rak'ah, that's fine. Make dua, make sujood, give sadaqah afterwards. And try your best not to fall into drinking alcohol again. Whether it's because of friends, or depression, or location, or work, whatever made you fall into it. Try your best to avoid it in the future. Wallahu alam.
Initials AA, Toronto, Ontario. What are steps to not lose hope in Allah?
Steps to not losing hope in Allah. Read the Quran. Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, how many difficulties and hardships did he go through? One after another. After another, after another, after another. And he never lost hope. And at the end of the story, he says, this is the interpretation of my dream. And my Lord has made it true. He's allowed it to manifest itself. So all of the difficulties, just being in jail alone, that could have broken him. Being in a house with that scandalous woman could have broken him. He was clearly innocent, and they still imprisoned him. They knew he didn't do it. That could have broken him. His brothers conspiring against him, throw him in a well, lying, that could have broken him. And there's so many other things. When his brothers grew up later on, so on and so forth, so many different things. So just think about that. Bidnillahi ta'ala.
Initials KA, London, UK. What are the best and reliable sources to learn history?
The best and the most reliable sources to learn history. I can't give you one source. That's a difficult task. My advice, bidnillahi ta'ala, is to start off with the mainstream view. Many people that talk about conspiracy theories, or they don't say it's conspiracy, they say it's a fact. And it may be. And the mainstream may be the conspiracy. They're hiding up or covering, but you don't even know the date or the place or the time or the location or what they're actually saying. Learn that first. Lock that down. Then you move on, bidnillahi ta'ala, to the, what some people call black vault. The black vault. You go to sources, whether it's a book or a documentary or a teacher, which are unorthodox. But you're not necessarily going to find that in Barnes and Nobles. You might not necessarily find that in this university, that college. You may have to go and search and seek it. And you'll find people who share, they have alike minds like you. Just like you want to learn the correct version of history, they want to teach the correct version of history. But every single thing about history you want to have to take with a grain of salt or a pinch of salt or a punch of salt, as he said. Okay? Because they're different versions. Wallahu alam.
Assalamu alaikum, Sensei. Initials MQ, Reading UK. A non-Muslim sister comes to shake your hand before a job interview. What would you say to them in order to stop them from shaking your hand?
A man,
Apparently.
a non-Muslim sister comes to shake your hands. Well, put your hand to your chest, make a polite gesture, have your hands behind your back, methadone. If she keeps her hand out, explain to her, say, I'm sorry, I can't, however you can avoid this situation. Because oftentimes it can be awkward. And every Muslim doesn't always have the ability to just say no, or to say, I can't shake your hand, or they're not eloquent to explain it. Some people, they say, my hand is a little greasy, or something like this, unfortunately. But if you can explain to them in a gentle, easy manner with hikmah, then do that. Hopefully she won't become offended, and if she does, you practice your religion. Religion is not based off of people's feelings, as long as you do your job to be gentle and to be kind. But sometimes you can be kind and gentle and wise, and people still just want to be nasty. Have a nice day. I didn't offend you. I didn't disrespect you. I don't have to shake your hand. It's not mandatory, especially if I'm a professional. Going on a job interview, of course, I know that it's easier said than done. I get it. I get it. You're going on a job interview, you're a Muslim. It's easier said than done. You walk into a place and you just leave the lady's hand hanging. I get it. That is difficult. Seek Allah's help. And if you fall weak, and if you shake her hand, or you're afraid that you won't get the job, or they're going to look at you like this and like that, it's a really good job for a Muslim. I can pray on time. I don't got to shave my beard. I don't have to deal with pork, but I just need to get my foot in the door. If you do that, then do that, but don't say that it's halal. And don't justify it. And don't say that it's okay. That's where the problem comes in. If you do something, don't say that it's okay to do it. It's okay to shake a woman's hand. I do it. Doesn't work like that. I'm weak. Or I have an interpretation or whatever, but don't justify it and broad brush the issue. And Allah knows best.
Assalamu alaikum. Initials JJ, Buffalo, New York. Is there an excuse of ignorance for a person who insults Islam or mocks the deen?
Mocking the deen is kufr akbar. Kufr akbar. To mock the religion of Islam.
Initials JA, Philadelphia, PA. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Why is Palestine called Palestine when Allah refers to them as the people of Israel?
Question says, why is Palestine called Palestine when Allah Azza wa Jalla refers to them as the people of Israel? Right. A very good question and an important question, but you have different dimensions to the question. Who's referred to as the people of Israel? The land or the people or the descendants? Does Allah explain and say to us in the Quran? I'm not saying it doesn't, but please show us the verse where Allah calls this earth the Israeli earth or Israel earth. Allah says, Al-Ard al-Muqaddasa, the sacred land, Mathalan. Al-Masjid al-Aqsa, the furthest mosque, Mathalan. But does Allah refer to the land as the land of Israel or Israeli land? That's a question that you have to answer yourself. Okay? Does Allah call it Palestine? We know that there are no verses what? That say that as well. The discussion and the issue of where the word Palestine comes from. The Philistines. Alexander the Great. It's a long historical debate of where the term came and when it was being coined, right? What's important is the piece of land, how it has been fought over, whether it was with Lionheart or Saladin, okay, the Crusaders, the 1948 war, Armenian war, Arab-Israeli war, etc. People have been fighting over that piece of land for many, many, many years. And the three main orthodox religions or the three main faiths of the world have a special value and importance in that land. Bethlehem, Beit al-Laham, the Dome of the Rock, so on and so forth. The Jews, their history, Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, and the list goes on. What's important is that people are going to fight, people are going to differ, and people are also going to try to justify and validate their position. If you win a war and you conquer land and you take over a place, that's one thing. But to justify and to mandate something which is not correct, which is unjustifiable, that's a different story. Whether it's religiously, politically, a social issue, you can't, the orange doesn't become green. You just say, we beat you in the war, we conquered it, we took over. That's one thing. All right, so you look at the history of the United States here, for example. And when you study the mainstream history, the concept of the indigenous people here, how they traded, how there was bartering, and there was also a great deal of war and atrocities committed on both sides, and there was killing. But do they necessarily say and justify and validate it? Or they say that there were wars, there were Indian wars, there was wrong that was done, and that's how it is. Okay, we can't go back 100 years or 20 years. These people have died off. They've migrated to this part. We wrong, but what are we going to do? But to say the orange is now green, that the Americans were here first, and the Indians, quote unquote, came. The Americans were just, and the Indians were unjust. The Indians were the aggressors. The Indians were committing acts of terror. The Indians did wrong. Do the Americans say that? In a history book, they don't necessarily say that. All right? But one thing is for sure is that there were wars. And we know that the stronger army and stronger armies, they won. And whatever the reason or however the rules were made, that was what happened. And we have the United States from sea to shining sea. Manifest destiny, whatever you want to call it. That's how it is. That's how it goes. But to come and say that we Americans, we were here first, the Indians came later, we deserve it, God promised us the land, so on and so forth, that's a different story. And that's why you find the different issues of that's a long discussion of manifest destiny. All the non-Muslims don't agree with that. And many of them even dispute the claim. They say that was an idea and a vision of a few writers, but it was never the vision of the United States government. The United States government, well, its vision was to make a great country and a great nation. The war with Mexico, so on and so forth. It wasn't necessarily manifest destiny. God promised us this land over these Indian savages. That's not the formal narrative. They won. They beat the war. We beat the Indians. We beat the Mexicans. We have the United States. Like it or love it, that's how it is. But to say that God promised us this land, what if the Indians say to the white colonists or settlers, well, we don't believe in your God? What if they say that? Then what? Who's right? So to mandate the taking of somebody's country and mandate and to validate atrocities and killings and murders and terrorism and to say it's because God gave it to us, that's not going to work. It just doesn't what? It just doesn't work like that. Regardless of whatever you call the land, whether you call it Turtle Island, whether you call it the United States, it doesn't matter what name is given, who deserves the land, whose land is it? Are the people living in there peacefully? Or is someone taking the land, pushing, kicking, throwing people off of it, and then playing the victim? Oh, they did this to us. Fulan did this to us. We were killed here, so that's why. That's a huge problem in religion. That's a huge problem in politics. That's a huge problem in international law. And the list goes on of violations. So the facts are the facts at the end of the day. At the what? At the end of the day, whatever a land is called, the facts are the facts. And if I'm a bully and I just take over, that's the bottom line. It's mine now. But the bully can't now come and play the victim. The bully can't come down and say, well, I believe in God, and God allowed me to take your lunch money at lunch. It just doesn't work like that. I what? I took it. What are you going to do about it? That's fine. But you can't now justify the wrong and turn green into orange or orange into green. It doesn't work like that. That's a huge problem. And Allah knows best. We ask Allah for help.
Initials AA, London, UK. How can a woman handle postpartum depression in light of Islam, not being able to pray, etc.? And how important is it to accept support during postpartum depression when family are patronizing regarding your ability to be a good mother, talking against your husband, and you are too physically weak to advise them?
Depression is a problem that many of us suffer from on one level or another, one time or another. The cure to depression, of how to prevent it, of how to get rid of it when it falls upon you, how to get out of that rut, how to prevent yourself from falling back into it, is clear within the Quran, the Sunnah, and many other beneficial worldly steps that you can take. Foods you eat, places you go, things that you do that can prevent, lessen, and help you stay away from depression, regardless of the reason behind the depression. Loss of a job, loss of life, divorce, heartbreak, postnatal, etc., etc., etc. So it's no specific way. All right? At the end of the day, it's something that Allah has decreed. Allah decreed upon you to menstruate. He decreed upon you to become pregnant, to conceive. He decreed upon you to give birth. He decreed upon you to feel a certain way after you give birth to that child. The child lives, the child dies. It's all the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the believer is commanded to fight himself and to fight the negativities and the low elements and to close the doors that the shaitan can enter and penetrate and come and attack the servant. These are things that Allah has tested us with. Jihadun nafs, the struggle within. Babies and other than having babies. So the answers to those problems are explained in other lectures and sources. As far as physical weakness in the family and if people are attacking you, that's fine. Allah is doing you a favor. He's doing a service to you. He's showing you who's your true friends. He's showing you who your true family members are. He's showing you how thin and fragile people are. And he's showing you how flimsy people are. And the moment something happens they don't like or they don't agree with, they'll turn on you. They'll talk about you. They'll discard you. They'll forsake you. And don't look at it as a disservice, but look at it as a service. As Allah Azza wa Jal, He tells in the Quran Kareem, لا تحسبوه شر لكم بل هو خير لكم. The slander of Aisha, don't think it's a bad thing, as a calamity or a tragedy. Bal, rather, it is a good thing for you. It's a good thing for you. Wallahu alam.
Initials MF, Staten Island, New York. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Mufti. May Allah bless you. Ameen. Does one have to lose one parent or both parents because to be considered an orphan?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you too. In Al-Islam, according to the Arabic language and Arabic culture, an orphan is a person who's young and his father dies. Before you reach puberty, your father leaves. If your mother is still there, you're considered an orphan. If you're a grown person and your father died, you're not an orphan. If you only have your father, not your mother, you're not an orphan. Someone who dies, or someone whose someone whose father dies, and they have not yet reached the age of adolescence, that's an orphan. Other than that, it's not an orphan. You don't have to lose both your parents to be an orphan. In Islam. Wallahu alam.
Initials MA, London, UK. Is it permissible to invest in the stock market?
Stock markets. Allah musta'an, yani. It's a detailed discussion. Just like all these other financial dealings is detailed. Some stuff is clearly haram. Other things could be permissible. Go into it with certainty. It's not just a black and white answer. What are you investing in? So on and so forth. Wallahu alam.
Initials NM, Amsterdam, the Netherlands. A friend of mine tells me not to take knowledge from you because you have a GoFundMe page. And the scholars say that it's not permissible to ask people for money. So it's permissible for people to ask money for Dawa.
Tayyib. If you want to take the advice of your friend, take the advice of your friend. Don't take knowledge from us. Alhamdulillah. There are many other YouTube speakers out there you can learn from, you can benefit from. You don't have to, inshallah. Next question.
Initials ND, Birmingham, UK. Assalamu alaikum, Noble Sensei. Is narrating hadith from an innovator like actually taking knowledge from him? Is narrating like teaching? Was it possible that the Salaf only took hadith and not explanations of the hadith?
Is it possible that the Salaf learned from innovators, they took hadiths from them, but they didn't take knowledge from them? Is it possible there's narrating and not teaching? Maybe. But if you say that, then your whole entire concept of da'wah and the way of the Salaf is gone. Ahlul Hadith. The way of Ahlul Hadith. You talking about Aqidah, but you call it the way of who? Ahlul Hadith, meaning that the Hadith is the what? Is the foundation. That's the asl. Inna hadha al-haditha deen. Inna hadha al-ilma deen. That's the foundation. So if you say that the Salaf, according to what you're saying, they took from innovators, but they never took knowledge from them. They just took hadith from them. So what is hadith, if not what? What is hadith if not deen? How do you take hadith from a person unless you sit with that person, unless you speak to that person? Do you think that the Salaf sat in front of an innovator with a hard stone face? I hate you for Allah's sake. Give me the narration. I mean, honestly, we have to ask ourselves this question. Do you think they came in there saying, wa alaikum, hadithni yet? Does it work like that? Do you go to a scholar that you're asking for and say, I hate you for Allah's sake, you're an innovator, so on and so forth? So I think that the person seriously needs to reconsider this question and get rid of foreign elements. I'll say that. Foreign elements. Because people, they find a clear problem now. Today in 2020, you can't listen to this one, Fulan, Imam Fulan, Mufti Fulan, Sheikh Fulan, because they're innovators. Or they've made mistakes, or they have a GoFundMe page, or whatever the issue is, whatever the problem is. Clear. Right. No mushkila. But Those who strike back and they counter back, they say, whoa, wait a second. Imam Ahmed, Bukhari, Fulan, this companion, this tabi'i, Rumiya bil Qadr, Rumiya bil Irja, Qatada, Mujahid, Fulan was accused of this, Talaq ibn Habib, so on and so forth. And they're all in Kutub al-Sitta. They're all in Kutub al-Sitta. They're all in the books of Hadith, which is the foundation of the Madhab al-Salaf. So obviously they have to wiggle. And that wiggling is, oh, they just took Hadiths from them, but they didn't take what? Ilm from them. Obviously, we see how childish that sounds and looks. But for argument's sake, I'm a deviant. You're an innovator. I have a hadith class. My channel is HadithDisciple, so you should do what now? Take what from me? Hadiths. But just don't take ilm. The aqidah, no, don't take that. The fiqh, don't take that. The seerah, don't take that. You see the problem now? It's a huge contradiction. And unfortunately, it's based off of his pure stupidity. The stupidity of the person that's not trying to look hypocritical in front of the people they're trying to control. The Salaf took narrations from innovators, clearly. But they didn't what? Take ilm from them, just narration. There's a difference between riwayah and ilm. Khayran, inshallah. Prove that. That's first and foremost. Secondly, how is it going to work, yani? How can you pit a cherry without getting the juice on your fingers? The seed is in the inside. Everyone understand this? It's just, هذا معقول يا أخي؟ يقول السلف أخذوا الحديث لكن العلم يعني. It's a problem here, guys. And Allah knows best.
Spencer Martinez, Queens, New
ليش
York.
هذا الكلام يا أخي؟ بالله عليك لا هل أنا غلطان يعني؟ كيف يصير؟ تفضل.
Spencer Martinez, Queens, New York. Can you use Bismillah even if you're living wrong?
Can you use Bismillah? You say Bismillah for whatever you need to say it for, even if you're living wrong. Never ever disconnect yourself with Allah. Shaitan promised to come from in front, from behind, from the right, and from the left, but he never mentioned from above. So even if you're doing something wrong, you have a girlfriend, you smoke, you drink, you have riba, you're missing prayers, never ever disconnect yourself from Allah. And you never know when Allah's mercy will come to you. Never, abadan. And if you make a mistake here, don't make a mistake there. It's a true statement. Two wrongs don't make a right.
Initials MA, London, UK. To what extent should a brother listen to his parents when it comes to finding a spouse? What if they reject due to ethnicity?
To what extent should a brother listen to his parents when it comes to finding a spouse? And what if they reject the spouse due to what? Ethnicity. It's a widespread problem around the Muslim world today, especially in Western countries in which there's a huge melting pot. And the people live in a way in which I don't think they lived before, ever. In which in one masjid we have 20 nationalities, 5 different ranks of ilm. He's Hafiz al-Quran, he knows Arabic, he's just this, he's just that. Have we lived in a place and a time in which the rich, the poor, everyone is equal, sitting, talking? It's a very different life that we live in 2020. Different madhabs, right? It's very different, okay? So, yani, your children, they go to college, and in the college there's 150 different nationalities. They watch TV, they listen to music, they watch videos, they read comic books, so on and so. They live in America, they live in Canada, they live in UK. But you tell them you can only marry from this one ethnicity. Hold on to your cultural values, your tribal values, this value of this clan, so on and so forth. But every single thing else is mixed and modern and progressive and integrated. That's like taking the pit from the cherry without yani getting the cherry juice on your finger. Kaif, yani. It just doesn't make sense. My favorite actor is a different race. I play basketball. All of the people on my team are of a different race. My favorite rapper is a what? Just keep it real. Everyone understand this? This dance, this teacher. And now you're saying that I can't love, I can't marry somebody just because of a different race? You're setting your child up for extreme failure. If you live in a country which is only people from Bangladesh, and that's it. They're all Hanafi, they're all this, different story. But New York City, 2020, I go to college, I do this, I watch this, you're just setting your child up for failure. The world is mixed, the world is integrated. And you tell your child, no, you have to stick to this cultural value. That's a problem. This is just not going to work, guys, period. If a girl or a brother falls in love or they like someone from their race and they're compatible, alhamdulillah. But if that's not the case, and that's the only reason to reject someone, you're doing a disservice to your child, period. You're doing a disservice to your child. Point number 2 is, oftentimes, to be fair for the parents' defense, it's not necessarily about race. Sometimes it is, but not all the times. Not all the time, yani. Sometimes it's about culture. And when people say interracial marriage, oftentimes they mean intercultural marriage. And that there's going to be a problem when you marry this sister from this Middle Eastern country, from this Caribbean country, so on and so forth. How to eat, the values of visiting, having children, working, this and that. The woman does this, the woman doesn't do that. The parents, that may be a clash. And they fear that you and her are not going to be compatible. You like each other, but the families won't get along. And that'll be tension and friction and major problems later on. And that could be true. But that is only applicable when the parents are free from racism. When it's true, and not just a person who says it. I'm not a racist, but it's actually true. Race means nothing to us. We're all good. But somebody that's not really being honest, and they look for an excuse and they look for a reason, that's a different story. All right? So at the end of the day, if that's the only reason to reject someone, a girl or a boy, is because of their race, then that's a problem. And you don't necessarily have to listen to your parents. Advise them, try to convince them, try to win them over, try to explain it to them, try to get someone knowledgeable to talk to them. Bidnillahi ta'ala. And if that's not the case, and that's the only reason why they're rejecting someone, you should try to speak to someone else with regards to your affairs. Last but not least, guys, is respecting a parent, obeying a parent, does not mean that the parent has full control over everything that the child does. That's abuse of power. That's abuse of power. To think that وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا means I have full saitara over everything in your affairs. That's an abuse. So that's incorrect. And many parents, they suffer from that. Wallahu alam.
Initial Davy, Brooklyn, New York, Barakallahu Fikum. Quote, that for a scholar to give a legal opinion about a people or a time or a place or a culture which they don't understand is misguidance and error and disobedience. Is this from Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah?
Allah knows best if that's from Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah with regards to, because people they complain and say, please, repeat the question. For a scholar to give a fatwa about a time, a place, a people, a situation that he is unaware of in full detail, is that misguidance? Allahu alam, is that Ibn al-Qayyim's speech? I don't know. Of course, these things should be taken into consideration, but there are different types of fatwas and there are different levels of fatwas. Someone could be asked a question and they give a general answer. And you don't have to know everything. You don't have to know the context. It's the general ruling versus your specific situation. You have to do this. It's upon you to do that. That's different. In this country, in that country, so on and so forth. So there are different types of answers and there are different type of rulings. And oftentimes you can't blame the mufti. You can't blame the scholar or the sheikh. But oftentimes it's the translator's fault. The translator's fault. Or the questioner's fault. They generalize things. They make something specific that was general. And it's not always the sheikh's fault. And sometimes, of course, it is the scholar's fault. So there has to be a detail. It has to be a detailed discussion with regards to fatwa, al-qada, so on and so forth. Last but not least is many brothers, many different brothers, they have different Dawa channels, even scholars. And they'll say on the radio program, we're not taking no questions about marriage. Go to your country, go to the qadi of your balad and ask him. No questions about marriage, no questions about divorce. And that's because هناك فرق بين الفتوى, الإفتاء والقضاء, etc. All right, tayyib. What's the purpose of you sitting in front of the people if you're not going to give them something? If I can just ask the scholar in my country, why am I listening and watching you? I'm calling Saudi because I want to what? Hear from you. And I don't want to ask the qadi in my country in Algeria or whatever country that I'm calling from for one reason or another. Now, of course, a sheikh on a TV program or on a live stream is not a qadi. He doesn't have all the details. That's not his job. But the concept of just leaving people hanging all of the time under the guise of هناك فرق بين الإفتاء والقضاء. You need qada. No. The general ruling is any woman who says this and does this is divorced. That is the ruling of Allah and His Messenger. Whether you mention approval or whether you don't mention approval. That's my answer. Does that mean that your wife is divorced from you specifically? Without hearing her side, without this? That's a different story. So there's a difference between a general ruling that is correct and valid versus the qada of a specific tailor-made situation. There's an extreme on both sides. Wallahu alam.
It shows RB London, UK. Assalamu alaikum mufti. Sorry, as this is not a deen-related issue, but I would just like to know, are those HadithDisciple jumpers and hoodies available for purchase for the public, please?
Jazakallah khairan. Yes, they are. You can go on our social media outlets, Instagram, the websites, you'll find it. Inshallah. Mawjood. It's there. We don't want to promote the stuff, selling or buying in the masjid or whatever. But the answer, yes. You can find it online, inshallah. It's there. You can purchase it, inshallah.
Initials Ali B, Harlem, New York. What's the ruling on Shia and Sufis?
The ruling on Shia and Sufis. Simple. وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِ مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ. Allah says, and this is my path, which is straight. So follow it. And follow not the other paths. Whereas they will split you up from Allah's path. It's that simple. Any name, any title, any group, any order that is not based off of the pure, orthodox understanding and practice of Kitab and Sunnah is going to be misguidance. Wallahu a'lam.
Initials N.E. Birmingham, UK. Assalamu alaikum, noble Sheikh. May Allah place you on the straight path. I mean, should a person pray Salatul Istikhara whether or not he should teach a class in the local masjid?
Oh, may Allah bless you. Ameen to your dua. There's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. La bas. However, understanding the nature of Salatul Istikhara, you're stressing out over a thing. إِذَا هَمَّ أَحَدُكُمْ بِالْأَمْرِ, the hadith says. When you're stressed, you're worried about an affair. Versus, they asked me to teach a class. Teaching the class is good. There's no bad or negative elements or strings attached. You don't have to stress out about it. And oftentimes, overthinking something, unnecessary hesitation, so on and so forth, is a negative thing. You don't need istikhara for everything. However, if you want to make istikhara, and that's the connection that you have with Allah, and you have doubts or there are issues, not best. But istikhara is not just for every single thing. Oftentimes that can lead to anxiety or waswasa. Let me make istikhara. Should I pray Jumu'ah or not? Should I do this? Should I read this book or not? Something is clear, it's good, it's khair, it's obligatory for you to do. It's not the same as marrying a specific brother, a specific girl, moving to a different country. That's different. It's different. Wallahu a'lam.
Initials M.A. Brooklyn, New York. Is it true that West Africans became Muslim through slavery?
Is it true that West Africans became Muslim through slavery? I believe that some have, yes. Yeah. Whether it was Arabian slavery or other than that, other types of slavery. Yeah, I think so. I think there are many nations that became Muslim through slavery, through being conquered and sold and bought and other things. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think that all Muslims in West Africa became Muslims through slavery. And I think many Muslims in West Africa were Muslims because of wars, were Muslims because of Dawa, were Muslims because of trading. All right? I don't think that every Muslim in West Africa for sure became a Muslim because of slavery. I think that's incorrect. Wallahu a'lam.
Initials A.E. Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Please explain the hadith, first part. Whoever controls his anger at the time when he has the means to act upon it. Here, what is considered as acting upon it? What types of anger and acting on it is okay?
The hadith about he who controls his ghayb. Man katama, he who suppresses his ghayb, i.e. he who doesn't fume it out. Fume it out. Okay? So you talk about, mathalan, we have this is a flask, all right? Vacuum sealed, right? How does the beverage stay hot and warm inside? See, the steam came out. Now I do what? Lock the steam up. Okay? So you stepped on my shoe, you spilled some juice on my thobe, you cut me off in traffic, whatever the case may be. And then I pound on the horn, or I put up my middle finger, you bleep, 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 right? Or I ram into the back of your car or something like this, so I catch up and I stare at you. Obviously I've done what? And you clearly cut me off. Alhamdulillah. طيب. I clearly what? كتم غيظه. I've suppressed it. Even though I have the ability to what? I can open it up and not just pour the whole thing on you. You understand what I'm saying to you? I can let go of my rage. Call you a bad name, cut you off, pull you out the car, beat you down, Allahu Alam, what's in my car, my glove compartment, who knows? I have the ability, what? To do that. Not somebody that's bigger than me, stronger than me, faster than me, in which I can't. I actually have the ability to just, be impulsive. But I choose to stifle it. I say, Subhanallah, La ilaha illallah, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, khayran inshallah. You suppress it. It's a difference between the two. That's what's meant by that. All right? You have the ability to curse. To strike, you have the ability to suck your teeth, to stomp your feet. That's what's meant by that. Wallahu alam.
Initials IB, Ottawa, Ontario. Is it true that the hadith regarding the mujaddid is a weak hadith? Please explain. May Allah reward you.
The hadith regarding the mujaddid, is it true that it is da'if? Please explain. Like we've explained many times before, brothers and sisters, the ulama of hadith, they differ. They differ on things in theory and in practice, on both. So there's a hadith that one scholar may say is Hasan, Sanaduhu Jayyid, like we read, and another scholar says no, because the narrator, they differ on him. Ismail ibn Abi Ayyash, Ismail fulan, this one, that one, Shami, Iraqi, etc. They differ. Or they differ on shudud wa illa. They differ on ittisal wal inqita'. يختلفون في النظر والتطبيق. So just because one scholar declares a hadith to be weak doesn't mean that another scholar agrees and everyone else agrees. What's your stance? Are you following a scholar that you trust? Or do you have the ability to research and search it and look into it yourself? Are you independent? Are you in the middle? You have to first and foremost make your standing clear. So, I trust Sheikh Al-Albani. I'm a 9 to 5 Muslim. I've heard nothing but good about the Sheikh. It's well known. They praise him. I trust Sheikh Al-Albani. I read in Sunan Abi Dawood, in the footnotes, this book, it's Sahih. Khalas. That's good enough. You follow with that, you stick with that, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. If you come across other information, if you come across other research, that's a different story. So the scholars, they differ on many hadiths, and every hadith that's put into widespread circulation in the West or in the East doesn't mean that everyone agrees with it, doesn't mean that it's Sahih. All right? So the scholars of hadith, they've been different on hadiths from the time of the Salaf al-Salih up until now. Wallahu alam.
Initials KA, London, UK. How to re-educate really young students who are being taught incorrect information, such as one of them saying folding Arabic letters is haram.
Folding Arabic letters? It depends on what's your status. Are you a teacher? Are you a coach? What ability do you have, inshallah? That depends on the ability that you have. What access do you have to those children, right? What's your relationship with those kids? Can you teach them directly? Indirectly? It depends. It all depends. Wallahu alam.
Initial CM, Philadelphia, PA. Assalamu alaikum. I am new to Orthodox Islam. Where do I start or go to get proper knowledge?
You're new to Orthodox Islam and you're living in Philadelphia. There are many masjids in Philadelphia, many that you can go to, inshallah ta'ala. You can find good Orthodox Islam in many of those masjids, inshallah. Bidna ta'ala, if you send us an email, perhaps we can steer you in the direction of some good Orthodox places, inshallah.
Initial CC, Boston, Massachusetts. Can you please explain the meaning of verse 434? Please, Sheikh.
Verse 434. Please quote the verse and not the number, inshallah.
Initials JT, JTF, Baltimore, Maryland. Assalamu alaikum, may Allah bless you. Are the NOI considered Muslim? Can you marry their women? Why are they allowed in Mecca?
Tayyip, NOI, Nation of Islam. Are they considered Muslim? Can you marry their women? Why are they allowed in Mecca? If you're a part of the Nation of Islam, then that's one thing. If you're not a part of the Nation of Islam, then that's a different story. So you're not involved in the Nation of Islam and you want to get married. Marry a sister that's outside of the Nation of Islam. There's no need for you to even deal with the problem, whether they are or whether they aren't Muslim. Marry a sister that's already practicing what you're practicing. If they're kuffar, or if they're Muslims, whatever they are, what does it change from your daily life? Living in the United States, or wherever you live, how many other non-Muslims are you surrounded by? You do business with. You send your kids to get educated by. You go to sit in their chair and they open up your mouth and stick things in your throat. So, I mean, what is it going to change? What's the difference? They're kuffar, they're not kuffar. If you're not one of them, alhamdulillah, you have no issues. You're not marrying them, you don't have to deal with it. What does it change whether they are or whether they aren't Muslim? If you have the ability to call one of them to that which is correct, whether they're Muslim or not, it's definitely things that are incorrect. That's for sure. There's no discrepancy about that. Call them and invite them to that which is true, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. As far as why they are allowed in Mecca or Louis Farrakhan, I don't know. You have to ask the custodians and the guardians of Mecca. That's their responsibility. I don't know.
Verse 434. First advise them, and if they persist, forsake them in bed, and finally strike them. And if they obey you once more, seek no means against them. And need Allah is ever exalted.
Please quote the entire verse. 434. That's not the entire verse in English. Quote the entire what? The entire verse, please.
This was A. People from New York. It's a diagnosed functional alcoholic required to pray Salah.
Without a question. He has to pray.
Initials A. Able to New York. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. May Allah bless you. Is there a level of sin a person may be or have to become involved in which would exclude him or her from teaching and lecturing after Tawbah?
It's not important. Don't worry about it. We get caught up too much about someone else's sin. This person made this sin. They got caught in this scandal, so therefore they shouldn't be lecturing. That's not your job. Unless you own a masjid, quote unquote. You run an Islamic center. You have a brother who's coming to apply to the imam's job. He wants to be a teacher. You know this about him. You heard this about him. That's a different story. But for the average 9 to 5 Muslim, it matters not. If this speaker is a sinner or a hidden sinner or is caught in this scandal, it's not لا يقدم ولا يؤخر شيئا من حياتك. It doesn't do anything with your life. If you have some beneficial knowledge to take from that person, for that. And if not, stay away from the person. It's just that simple. As far as an actual speaker asking, if I fall into this sin, can I keep teaching classes? It's a different story. I'm in charge of a Dawa center. Can I hire this person? Can I bring him in? That's a what? That's a different story. But your personal campaign for a sinful speaker is not going to change anything, and in most cases only going to lead you to something else, which is haram. Wallahu a'lam. That's a big problem that people have, thinking that they're in control and they're the guardians of the galaxy. The guardians of the galaxy of Dawah. Wallahi. They have this stigma. They're caught up thinking that me, the 9 to 5 layman, ignorant person, I'm in charge of who teaches and who speaks. It's my job to point this one as a deviant. He made this mistake. He doesn't care that he got caught with this sister. That's not your job. That's not your job. You're reading an English translation. It's not your job to tell someone who speaks the Arabic language fluently what they can and cannot do and who that is. Allah did not make you the guardian of that galaxy. Many people, that there's widespread, especially with social media. Especially with social media. It's dangerous. That speaker, his sins or her sins, is between Allah and the servant. That's it. Unless you have an involvement with them. Wallahu a'lam.
Initials NM Amsterdam, Netherlands. I'm sorry for my previous question, Sheikh. What is the ruling on asking money for the mosque?
What is the ruling on asking for money?
For the mosque or Dawah?
For the mosque or for the Dawah. Type. And then Lu'l Marjan and Kitab al-Zakah, if you go back to that playlist, we have explained those hadith with regards to asking for money. Begging for money, collecting money. We've explained that. And the kalam of the ulama, such as a nawi pertaining to that issue, when it is or isn't permissible to ask for money. As far as the brief answer now, then there's nothing wrong with collecting money as long as it's done properly. And the first step of a proper collection of money is that it has to be a need. Number 2, it cannot be a means of humiliation. Number 3, it cannot be a means of annoyance and harm. So I have no need for asking for money, collecting money. Different story. The asal is that it's haram and it's a major sin. You just want to get more and more and more. Tastakthir. Bidun haja. That's one ruling. Number 2 is that it can be an issue in which you're humiliating yourself. Begging and asking, oh please, oh I need it, I don't have no money. I don't have no money to change my socks. I wear the same undershirt for 3 weeks, so I'm humiliating myself. And you'll be shocked, many people, they do this. Last but not least is harassing you. So you have a GoFundMe page. Do you have to go on the page, or does the page come to you? Is there an ad every 2 seconds? Every single video is a promo. Donate, give to HadithDisciple, give us your money, give your money, give us your money. It's a night and day between the two things. Everyone understand this? Of harming and annoying the person. Everybody understand this? The reason behind GoFundMe and Patreon and things like this, wallahi, there's been countless people that have said, listen, Sheikh, I need to support your channel. I want to support your channel. How? I can't come physically. I have people in this country, they want to donate. Please allow us to give a little bit back to what? All that which you have given to us. So we said, allow the people to give and to donate. Allow the people to contribute in that which they feel benefits their soul, and that which feels benefits their bodies, and the list goes on. Today on Instagram, a person came in and says, I came back to Islam through your videos. And it's not the first time someone said something like that. Said, I came back to the religion, I apostatized, I left the deen, and I came back because of your videos. So somebody that they come up to you and they say, listen, man, please allow me to do something for you. In person, you might find a brother, well, he'll grab my arm after Juma. Sheikh, please, go, come with me to the bank. I have to go. No, please, I have to give it to you. It's not that simple and easy to say what? No. Let alone the fact that you're not necessarily asking for the money. So these are some of the reasons. These are what? These are some of the reasons. Last but not least, brothers and sisters, is that if you feel uncomfortable with a thing, there's nothing wrong with asking about it, as long as it's done properly. But be mindful and make sure that you implement it all the way around the board. Because there are many other websites or countries that have all types of financial and economic issues and things going on. So you can't just pick and choose. It has to be applied all the way around the board. Wallahu a'lam.
Ayah 434. Men are in charge of women by right of what Allah has given one over the other, and what they spend for maintenance from their wealth. So righteous women are devoutly obedient, guarding in the husband's absence what Allah would have them guard. For those wives from whom you fear arrogance, first advise them. Then if they persist, forsake them in bed, and finally strike them. If they obey you once more, seek no means against them. Indeed, Allah is ever exalted and grand.
Jazakallah khairan.
Please, what does the striking part mean?
Crystal. Now we have a different question now. The question started off, explain 434. Correct? But then it became, quote the whole verse. And they only started off with, avoid the bed, so on and so forth. Now we have a whole entire ayah quoted in English. Now we have, what is the striking part? And alhamdulillah, I knew what verse 434 was. But I did this intentionally to prove a point. It's a very important point, as you can clearly see. Verse 434 is not striking women. The verse does not say, وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ. It doesn't say beat them, beat them, beat them. It doesn't say that. It's a very important lesson. It does not say that. Verse 434 does not say beat women. Verse 434 is not the ayah of beating women. It doesn't state that. It states many other things. Many things mentioned in the ayah. And if you have an issue of beating women, that's fine. But don't say that the Quran 434 is what? Beating women. It's two different things. That's first and foremost. Inshallah, you can go back to Mufti Q&A. We've done an explanation of this. And we've also done a lecture on this. At Abu Hurairah Center, I believe over a year ago, we've done a full lecture on domestic abuse in light of the Quran and Sunnah. Please go back to that detailed lecture, and we should explain what's meant by that ayah. The brief answer now, not to leave you hanging, is that the verse before the word وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ and the literal translation, we're not running from that. وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ. Translated, hit them, beat them. That's the literal translation. Okay? The verse does not start off with hitting them, and it doesn't end with hitting them. But the verse gives a whole atmosphere of a man's status, a man's position, a man's responsibility, a woman's status, a woman's virtue, and a situation and a scenario. وَاللَّاتِي تَخَافُونَ. Those women whom you fear, their nushuz. Then you do A, B, C. And if they obey you, if they listen, فَلَا تَبْغُوا. Then don't exceed the boundaries anymore. ... Because Allah is ever, 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 ever. It's like night and day versus just smack. It doesn't say just smack or punch. It doesn't say that. But it explains things from A all the way to Z. And then obviously there are many letters between A and Z. So if you happen to come across a J or an M or P or R or Q, then there are different solutions. And there are different ways of dealing with that problem. And from them, not the first, is to what? وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ. To hit them. But it does not mean that this verse is understood individually away from the rest of the Quran or away from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ with regards to hitting someone in the face, with regards to being an abusive person, with regards to, we just asked about controlling anger. The Prophet said, "La taghdab." Everyone understand this? And what you see on the television screen, or what you read about in a novel, or what you witness growing up is not the Quran. That a man comes home from work, he's drunk, he comes home, he smacks his wife around, she's in the kitchen with the kids, the food is on the table, he throws the food across, he grabs her by her hair. That's not Islam. And that's not what 434 says or allows. Abadan. It's a difference. All right? Having a hard pill to swallow is fine, but make sure that you separate things. Don't be a pancake. in which the syrup is poured on top and it just oozes all over the place. Be a waffle in which every single square and block holds and contains the syrup. Don't be sloppy in understanding any issue, let alone the issue of hitting people, because the Quran doesn't say hit women. It doesn't say beat women. It does not promote beating women. How many other verses in the Quran where it says beat them? How many other hadith where the Prophet says, Ulaika khiyarum, the best of men are those who beat them? It doesn't state that. So domestic abuse, anger, drinking, fighting, hollering, cursing, versus a woman who's being disobedient to Allah and His Messenger, versus divorce or wadribuhunna. There's a difference. There's a what? There's a difference. So you have to understand that properly. And it's not the same, and it's not what you're used to seeing or hearing. It's totally different. And Allah surely knows best.
Last question. Assalamu alaikum, Abu Saleh from Toronto, Canada. What is the best way to teach your kids the Arabic language?
The best way for teaching your children the Arabic language is to surround them in an environment, whether it's a country or cartoons or the books. Have friends that speak Arabic, and obviously that's difficult because people that come to Canada, they don't want to talk Arabic. They don't want to be even distinguished as Arabs. They just want to fit in. Unfortunately, most, not all, but definitely most. Last night in the store, right? Unfortunately, I'm Dominican. I'm not Yemeni. And then you say, are you Muslim? Did you give salam? Say, yeah, I'm a Muslim. I mumbled it. First of all, you didn't mumble it. And secondly, why would you mumble the salams? Why wouldn't you say, wa alaikum salam? What's the mumble about it? If I say, how much is this cake? Would he have mumbled it, Abdul? He would have clearly said what?
$7.
So it's a problem, Yani. But if you have the ability to travel, or there are people that can teach you kids, then that's fine. I would say lead them in with the hopes of gain, as a wise man once said. You come to Canada from Iraq, or from Kurdistan, or from Kuwait, your children need to know English. Let's make a deal. I will teach you English. My wife will teach your wife English. My kids will do this, but you have to what? Teach us Arabic. I want to learn everything. Bunny rabbit, cucumber. I want to learn how to say book, pencil. I want to learn how to curse somebody out. I want to learn how to say stupid. I want to learn how to get into an argument. I want you to teach me everything from your language. And I'll teach you what?
Everything from what?
That is a much easier or a better chance than saying, hey, I'm looking for Arabic, I'm looking for Arabic, I'm looking for Arabic. Most people say, I'm busy. I'm trying to learn English. You understand? So that's what I would advise. If you can't physically travel and go to countries in which they speak Arabic. But maybe you have to make a sacrifice. Take your children to Mauritania for a year. Take them to Egypt for a year, even if they have to suffer a little bit. Take them overseas for 6 months. Wallahu a'lam. Sallallahu sallam mubarak ala abdihi wa rasulih.